In Argentina, feminist movements have called for mobilizations this Tuesday to call for the decriminalization of abortion. The United Nations Secretary General is set to present the report of the UN mission to Colombia to the Security Council this Monday. Russian experts have uncovered over 10,000 explosives in the Nagorno-Karabakh region since December 8th. From the headquarters of teleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South, and I'm Katrina Goss. And we begin in Argentina, where feminist movements have called for mobilizations this Tuesday to call for the decriminalization of abortion. The National Campaign for the Right to Legal, Safe and Free Abortion has called on all its members and activists to rally outside the headquarters of the Argentine Congress as senators vote on the voluntary termination of pregnancy bill. Women's groups continue to mobilize to ensure pressure on senators to finally approve the measure, stressing that it represents an extension of the guarantees of social justice and human rights in the country. Meanwhile, the pro-life movement also plans to mobilize to voice its opposition to the right to abortion. The Peruvian Congress will this Monday begin the debate on the bill on the new agricultural export sector law. Among the provisions approved by the Congress Economic Committee based on the proposal presented by the government are a minimum daily wage for sector workers. However, the National Federation of Agricultural Workers announced that the wages established in the bill on agro-exports actually represent a lower monthly income than sector workers previously had. The new law also states that workers in public agricultural export companies will receive half the salary that workers in private companies will get. The union did not rule out further protests against the bill. Migrant women living in Peru continue to denounce physical and verbal violence as one of the leading crimes affecting Latin American societies. Violence against women represents one of the most widespread, serious and devastating human rights violations in the world. In Latin America, the true figures are often hidden due to the impunity that perpetrators enjoy, as well as the silence, fear of stigmatization and shame experienced by many victims. In Peru, the abused migrant workers movement has denounced the dangerous situation that migrant women face in the country.
I didn't see the red flag of violence until the first verbal and physical attacks has already taken place. And now, going to therapy, I understand that when one suffers violence, that one does is minimize the violence experience and maximize the good things, so you end up somewhat trapped. National survey shows, for example, that 7 out of 10 women have reported having been victims of intimate partner violence. So this shows us that there is machismo that is deeply rooted in our society. There is contempt for women as human beings who have autonomy, words, rights.
The UN Secretary General is set to present the report of the United Nations mission to Colombia to the Security Council this Monday. Secretary General Antonio Guterres will present the document prior to the Security Council meeting to be held on January 21st. In the report, Guterres notes that the growing insecurity in Colombia is the main obstacle to achieving the goals of the 2016 peace agreement. The UN mission in Colombia has so far confirmed over 300 attacks and 200 assassinations of signatories to the peace deal. Human rights organizations continue to denounce the impunity and violence that reigns in the country, while demanding a response and an explanation from President Ivan Duque's administration. 3 people were killed and another 3 wounded in the US state of Illinois when a shooter opened fire at a bowling alley. A suspect in his 30s was in police custody. Rockford City Police urged people on Twitter to stay away from the area near the Don Carter Lanes bowling alley as it was an active situation and officers were clearing the site. They also said 3 other people had been wounded from the gunfire and were being treated at local hospitals.
Responding officers came to the scene. Calls were coming in. There was multiple victims. At this point, it's still an ongoing investigation. We do have 3 individuals that are confirmed deceased. We also have 3 confirmed other individuals that have received gunfire and are being treated at local hospitals. At this point, we have a person of interest in custody. That's pretty much where we're at. The officers are still working the scene. The state's attorney's office has been apprised. We're working with the business owners. They are on scene, providing all cooperation they can to help us.
The European Union has begun its official coronavirus vaccine rollout. In Italy, the first vaccines are being administered at the Spallanzani Hospital in Rome.
It has been painful to witness the defeat that this virus has caused, but today there is an awareness that it is an important and decisive day. Science and medicine are the only means, together with the civic sense of each one of us, that will allow us to emerge victorious from this tough battle. I say it from the heart. Let's vaccinate.
Now there is a vaccine. Others will come. It will have to be distributed, and let me say this, at Spallanzani, it will have to be distributed to everyone and to all the citizens of the world, free of charge, because in the face of this universal tragedy, it is truly a universal good that will have to be guaranteed to everyone.
And vaccination against the coronavirus kicked off in the German capital Berlin on Sunday with 101-year-old Gertrude Haas, who received the jab at her retirement home.
The virus is very dangerous. One has always heard and also read about the many deaths in other retirement homes and everything, right? Absolutely terrible. And therefore it is very good that one is vaccinated against it now. That's a big advantage for us old people here, yes.
Everything was well prepared. Patients are glad that they can be vaccinated. They are quite proud that they get to be the first. And everyone also appreciates that with these vaccinations, we now have additional protection, especially against the severe courses of the disease.
Furthermore, a 96-year-old living in a care home in central Spain became the first in the country to be vaccinated against COVID-19 on Sunday. Spain's aiming to immunise up to 20 million people by June, with an initial target of 2.5 million by the end of February. Under EU deals, the country's lined up to receive 140 million doses, enough to vaccinate 80 million people, which is almost twice the population. Meanwhile, France began its campaign in care homes for the elderly in the Paris suburb of Seine-Saint-Denis, a low-income area hard hit by COVID-19. A 78-year-old woman named Morissette was the first to receive the jab, prompting an applause from staff. The government is aiming to have an initial 1 million people, consisting of seniors, vulnerable individuals and healthcare workers, vaccinated against COVID-19 by the end of February in the country's 7,000 nursing homes and related facilities. Israel has entered its third national coronavirus lockdown, with much of the economy again shutting down amid surging infection numbers. The 2-week lockdown includes the shutdown of most non-essential businesses, limitations on gatherings and movement from people's homes, and reduced public transit. Likewise, schools and kindergartens will remain open. Israel has recorded over 400,000 cases of the coronavirus since March and over 3,000 deaths. Just a few days after a Brexit deal was struck between the European Union and the United Kingdom, people have already started to feel the effects. Several EU migrants residing in the United Kingdom said they've started to experience disadvantages as a result of Brexit. Recently, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson expressed satisfaction with the deal, but conceded that it does not address key matters, especially regarding access to EU markets. And the London-based restaurant owner Pascal Assignac said that Brexit has already impacted his ability to hire staff, as hospitality workers from European countries have become less willing to move to the United Kingdom.
UK, British people are not working in the hospitality sector, so we need to find people from Europe. And actually, because of the Brexit going on, there are better way of staying in their own country than moving to London. Before, it was the fact that they wanted to come to London or to UK to learn English. That was the priority. But now, with the fact that they are not really welcome, they don't want to take this opportunity to learn English in this country.
Russian explosives experts from the Emergency Situations Ministry have uncovered over 10,000 explosives in the Nagorno-Karabakh region since December 8th. The explosives include shells, mortar bombs, artillery pieces, bullets, grenades and anti-tank guided missiles. They were found in an area spanning 53 hectares, mainly in the Askaran province of the region. Drones were also used to survey destroyed buildings in the area. Nagorno-Karabakh lies within Azerbaijan, but was under the control of ethnic Armenian forces backed by Armenia since a separatist war there ended in 1994. Following the recent conflict, which saw 6 weeks of intense fighting over the disputed region, Russia brokered a peace deal between the two sides that saw Azerbaijan reclaim much of the region, along with surrounding areas.
The explosives experts of the Russian Emergency Situation Ministry swept through a territory including 1.4 hectares in Nagorno-Karabakh near the settlement of Argentine. 280 explosive objects were found.
China on Monday rejected the United States' call for the immediate release of a group of Hong Kong separatists who are facing trial in China after they attempted to escape the territory by speedboat to Taiwan.
The U.S. side's remarks disregard the fact and confuse right and wrong. China firmly opposes these remarks. China is a country under the rule of law where the laws must be followed and violations must be punished. China urges the U.S. side to effectively abide by international law and the basic norms governing international relations, and immediately stop interfering in China's internal affairs regarding the Hong Kong issue and China's judicial sovereignty.
In Nigeria, the insurgent group Boko Haram has killed at least 10 people, including 4 security personnel, in 3 villages in the northeast of the country. Fighters in 6 trucks attacked the villages of Shava, Asari and Tashan Alaid in Borno State on Saturday and set fire to homes and public buildings while firing sporadically at residents. The attack forced the residents to flee into the bush amid the shooting from the militants. In a video it released on Saturday, the group also claimed responsibility for a Christmas Eve attack on a village in which 11 people died, as well as the kidnap of a priest who appeared in the video.
We are calling for the government. Please provide us enough security in our hometown. If not, these terrorists are not going to let us live.
Millions of voters went to the polls in Niger in an election expected to lead to the West African nation's first transfer of power between 2 democratically elected presidents since gaining independence from France in 1960. According to opinion polls, former Interior Minister Mohamed Bazoum, the ruling party's candidate, is the overwhelming favourite to succeed President Mahamadou Issoufou, who's stepping down after 2 5-year terms leading the country of 23 million. Out of the more than 30 candidates, the main challengers to Bazoum are 2 former heads of state, Mahaman Osman and Salou Djibo.
It's also unavoidable a special day for Niger, who is going to experience, for the first time in history, a democratic transition. I hope that the first democratic transition will be a foundation stone for other transitions to consolidate our democratic process.
I just vote and I hope that the best one wins. 2 terms have passed. We saw what the state was, and now we would still like to have more enthusiasm and peace and stability, especially, and we would like the Nigerians to get to work.
Polling stations in the Central African Republic closed and countings begun in presidential and legislative elections seen as a key test for the troubled nation. The polls took place after a week of turbulence marked by accusations of an attempted coup, the brief seizure of the country's 4th largest town, and the dispatch of military personnel by Russia and Rwanda to help the beleaguered government. Final results are expected within the next week. A runoff vote will be held on February 14th if there is no overall majority in the first round. This was the country's first election since a peace deal was signed between the government and 14 rebel groups in February 2019, although the fighting continues. And speaking after casting his ballot in the capital, incumbent president and ruling party candidate Faustin Archange Touadera thanked Rwanda for sending troops to help secure the voting process.
I sincerely thank President Paul Kagame, the Rwandan government and the Rwandan people for their support securing this process, which will allow Central Africans to freely choose their leader. Every 5 years, the Central Africans freely choose their leader. The institutions responsible for this mission are the ANE and the Constitutional Court, and the date set is the 27th. That is why all Central Africans come to vote, and I myself came to fulfill my civic duty.
Meanwhile, the head of the UN mission in the country hailed the election as a success, despite incidents in some regions where rebels burned ballot papers and tried to prevent voters from accessing polling stations.
On the whole, we have observed that the process is going on very well, with calm and serenity in Bangui. The population has gone out in large numbers to exercise their right to vote. I think that we should be very happy about this because we know that there were people who did not want this election to take place. MINUSCA and Central African Armed Forces and Security Forces are facing and continue to face those who try to prevent the elections to take place in Bambari, in the west, and in Abril too, where there are people calling on the population to boycott the vote. But in some places, the people have resisted.
This Monday, Mexican musician, singer and composer Armando Manzanero passed away at the age of 85. Armando Manzanero is considered the leading post-war Mexican romantic composer and is one of the most successful in Latin America. Of Mayan descent, he was the first Mexican to receive an honorary Grammy Award in 2014. Since 1982, he'd worked to defend artist copyright and actively participated in the leadership of the National Association of Authors and Composers of Mexico. Armando Manzanero composed more than 400 songs, of which at least 50 were international hits. He recorded more than 30 albums and composed the scores for several films. And we've come to the end of this news brief, but we finish with a song by Mexican star Armando Manzanero, who passed away this Monday. Remember, you can find these and many other stories on our website and social media pages. For teleSUR English, I'm Katrina Goss. Thank you for watching. Enjoy the music.
Adoro la calle en que nos vimos, la noche cuando nos conocimos. Adoro las cosas que me dices, nuestros ratos felices, los adoro, vida mía. Adoro la forma en que sonríes, el modo en que a veces me ríes. Adoro la seda de tus manos, los besos que nos damos, los adoro, vida mía. Me muero por tenerte junto a mí, cerca, muy cerca de mí, no separarme de ti. Y es que eres mi existencia, mi sentir, eres